Hello and welcome to Interlagos for round number 3 of the Grand Prix Legends series here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing esports network. The first 2 rounds have already produced 2 close finishes, and there's no reason we can't expect more of the same today with the infamous long straight that leads to the Interlagos checkered flag. Hi everyone, I'm Samuel Ryman, and alongside me in the booth is Joe Peak. Behind the scenes doing all of the button pushing is our director Sean Ambrose, and he is using camera sets provided by Dougie Beard. For the first time this season, the Grand Prix Legends series visits a present-day Grand Prix venue, but it would be a mistake to say that this means that they have more room to play. Let's take a closer look at Interlagos.
Welcome to Autódromo's José Carlos Pache. Most fans and drivers simply know this place as Interlagos. Starting life as an absolute behemoth of a circuit, this Brazilian track was eventually truncated to the version you see today. Having hosted Formula One for roughly 3 decades, it's become very well known on the international stage. But it has also held rounds in the World Endurance Championship, as well as frequently seen Brazilian stock cars, motorcycles, and even truck racing. There's little difference between its 2 layouts, which includes the GP course and the Moto course, which simply adds a chicane to the end of the lap. In both cases, it's a tale of 2 circuits. The run past the start-finish line and into the Senna S, followed by the blast towards the Descida do Lago, are very high-speed sections that come back-to-back. Drivers will need to focus on top end in order to attack or defend. Expect most passes to happen in those 2 corners. But from Ferradura until Juchão, the track suddenly twists itself into a mess of hairpins and frustratingly technical turns. This can make car setup a real compromise, and for the latter part of the lap, an absolute pain when dealing with traffic. Pit exit is also a narrow affair, so it requires drivers to take care when trying to maximize their outlaps. On the upside, with this being a modern F1 track, there's paved runoff in abundance at many of the fast corners. The passion of the Brazilian fans always comes out in force at races, and it's no wonder with this picturesque track sandwiched right amongst the neighborhoods of Sao Paulo.
A tricky track and a tricky car to drive. This should be a fun one to watch. Are you looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions? From official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description to learn more. And Joe, we have 36 drivers getting ready for a single split race here today. And here at the Interlagos circuit, I think that could cause a little bit of excitement.
Yeah, it's not that long of a lap around here, even though it is a modern Grand Prix course. Relatively short, so with that many cars, probably going to see some traffic. But really, the big thing is going to be how these cars handle 2 parts. One is the infield section. It's very twisty in there. Obviously, you're going to be in low gears, and this car has a lot of power. So drivers will need to figure out what is the best way to do it, short shifting or just being easy with the throttle. And then the other thing, you mentioned the run up to the checkered flag, past the Subidos dos boxes, past the water tower, up to the line. It is very hairy in this car. It's not flat out. One of the few cars on iRacing where it isn't flat out all the way to there. So again, it is going to be a case of having to modulate the throttle, and it could make or break whether or not you get a passing opportunity into the Senna S today, Sam.
This is an official series race on iRacing. If you come and tune in every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, for the most part, you will see familiar names racing up front, but you're always going to see the odd name or 2 that we haven't seen before. However, to give you an idea of the drivers to look out for, here are the drivers leading the main championship after the opening 2 rounds, and it is 2 second-place finishes for Rafael that has him sitting 10 points ahead of Rob Olyanek. Bill Tyler is there third in the points ahead of Alessandro Parigi, but it's a tie for 5th place in the points between our 2 race winners so far this season, Mick Claridge and Ove Trantre. So which one of those 2 is going to break their tiebreaker today?
We have the F2 championship for this series, and oddly enough, much like real life, F2 is being led by a Schumacher. Andre is up at the front ahead of Marlon Williams. We've got John Vitrano very, very close behind Marlon, so tight fight there for second place here early in the season. Van Dorn and Eng round out your top five. Still a lot of races left to go, Sam, so that could switch up plenty.
Absolutely. That's we'll wait and see how that all pans out as the season goes on. We'll take a look at the race details here. It's only round 3 of 12, so very early in the championship. 23 lap race around here, Joe. And as you mentioned, this is a bit of a lengthy circuit, and particularly for these cars, you know, normally you would call this a 15-turn racetrack. Well, I think we've got a couple more, given how much you have to lift on some of the straights around here. So 23 laps, these drivers are going to have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, and like I said, some of those places that originally were counted as corners and really weren't to most cars are now corners. So going side by side, especially through some of the faster ones, is quite hairy. In fact, it's going to be difficult to be side by side in much of this track. Honestly, I anticipate most of the passes to be down into the Descida del Lago and then carry on until Ferradura, because that tends to lend itself best to most of the side-by-side racing. And honestly, because of the back-and-forth nature of it, it's kind of a toss-up on who's got the advantage there.
So Rafael Dorado, who leads the championship with 2 second-place finishes so far this season, goes straight to the top of the timing sheets, but only by 0.005 of a second over Mick Claridge. We mentioned Mick had a bit of a hardware failure, is a short story, last week that kept him from racing at Laguna Seca, and that's why he's only sitting on 50 points for that race when he had at the start of the season. He wasn't able to pick up any more points last round, but we anticipate Mick being a very fast driver, a championship contender, but right now he's not on pole.
Yeah, Mick is used to these sort of situations happening. He's had plenty of championships where he's been kind of hot or cold. Now, usually in the past, it's been more his own doing, not necessarily for the hardware. So at least he's got that going for him. We'll see how consistent he is. Like you said, it's small margins, and that can be made up with just the tiniest little bit around this circuit. I think we're going to get Dorado to the line for his second lap first of everybody.
So he'll try and improve on that 129.871 to make sure that nobody can beat him, or to help ensure that. Let's see, he's crossing the line now. He goes faster by about 1/10 of a second. Is that going to be enough? Mick Claridge crosses the line and only goes faster by 0.003. So Rafael's feeling quite safe right now.
We're watching John Van Dorn now a little bit farther down the order, and it looks like he's put both of his laps in. I kind of don't blame him. I got a little bit of a practice run in yesterday, and I did the same, where it's just after qualifying was over, just keep rifling the laps off. This is an incredibly tough track to be consistent on, just because there's a lot of places where it's got curved braking zones, and that's something this car doesn't really like. It looks like we're going to see what Colin Bentley has underneath him for the first time.
Well, these drivers, Joe, are all very strong drivers. You have to be able to successfully navigate a Lotus 49 around any circuit. But look at the spread in lap times we have got on the left side timing and scoring column here. And that's not to say that, you know, the drivers sitting in 19th and 20th who are 3 seconds off a pace are slow drivers. It's just a testament to how tricky this car is to get around here, but also a testament to how quick the top two are. They have almost a second over the rest of the field.
Yeah, and I was looking at that earlier, and Ove Tragarade is no slouch. In fact, he's won multiple races in this series. He's been in contention for championships in prior seasons. So for him to be that far off says that both Rafael and Mick are really booking it today.
33 of the 36 drivers have turned a time so far. Nothing from Bruno Dragavazo, Eugenio Massa or Robert Reynolds. And to be honest, Joe, I'm not too surprised to see a few drivers opt in not to turn the qualifying time. Maybe we'll even have a couple of pit starters just due to this massive field size. The start of this lap kicks off with a Senna S. It's not unusual to have the odd car or two tangle there at the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, and drivers will need to watch out for that incident limit as well, because we saw in qualifying, we didn't report on it, but there's a few drivers that didn't have laps count because it's easy to go over the edge here, Sam.
Well, qualifying is over, so let's read out the grid quickly for you. It's Rafael Dorado on pole position ahead of Mick Claridge. Ove Trantre will be starting from third ahead of Mikko Lino. The number 29, our F2 Championship leader of Andre Schumacher, has qualified very well in fifth despite loading the wrong setup. Rob Olyanek starts in sixth behind him. Alessandro Parigi starts from seventh ahead of Colin Bentley, and Sebastian Tixier and Gines Ruiz Nunez round out the top 10.
Yuri Giesen in 11th is followed by Paul Foster. Then Antonio Reese in P13 has Chris Murakami to his outside in 14th. Yanni Lehman in P15 is followed by Eric Lupel in 16th and Laust Olsen behind him in P17. Emmanuel Pereira in 18th will be starting in front of Terry Worth in 19th, and 20th goes to John Vitrano.
Page 3, here we go. Togo Hisada starts 21st ahead of Chris Hengler, Dave Cohen and John Olsen, Andres Bruno, Alessio Passini, John Van Dorn, Osmar Schultz, Anthony Obrota, Douglas Cloud, Andrew Eng, Douglas Nelson, Simon Haynes, last driver to set a time, and then the three aforementioned drivers who did not turn the time in qualifying make up our 36 car field.
This is going to be one where traffic could play a big part in this one, Sam. So keep an eye when the leaders catch up to them.
So the recap, our top two rows there, that's Rafael on the left in the grey car, and here come the lights. The lights are off and away they go, and the field of 36 cars strong heads down into the centre S, and Rafael already going defensive, running Mick up towards the wall. Mick settles into second place behind as the field starts to navigate their way down the hill. Clean up front, the top two still nose to tail. Mick Claridge applying the pressure as they go on down the straight towards turn 4.
Great to see everybody try and give way at the start so that we didn't have an accident. Dorado actually going defensive down the Cida del Lago. This is going to give Claridge a great run, and here we go. This is exactly what I was talking about a battle, but Claridge gets loose.
I think we had a couple cars running off there, but at the top of the hill, Rafael has been able to extend the lead a little bit over Mick Claridge.
Yeah, that was Laust Olsen and Emmanuel Pereira. I think Olsen just sent it in a little bit too deep and got tangled up with him. Easy to do in that corner on the first lap.
Oh, and we're still having some more incidents in the middle of the field. Almost got a 3 wide scenario going into the hairpin. So these drivers are taking a couple of risks, and rightfully so. This isn't the easiest track to make a pass on, so if you do want to get some passes done, this is the time to do it. Ove Trantre still holding out in third place, but the top two are nose to tail as they go on down this front straight. As you mentioned, Joe, they do have to lift a little bit, but I think Mick might still be able to get a run. And once again, Rafael going defensive.
Mick already on the attack early. He must think that he's got to get ahead if he's fighting this hard. And them doing that, look at that. Tranqueray, despite his lack of pace in qualifying, is still right on top of them. So they got to watch out how much they're fighting here. We have another big incident up in turn 1. I see Lucal involved with that and a few other cars, but I think everybody's able to get it going again.
Top 3 quite close, so a bit of a mistake there from Ove though on the exit of the corner. A couple big movers worth a shout out to as we ride on board our second place car right now. Yuri Gershon has moved up from 11th to 8th, and Eric Lucal went from 16th to 10th, but then of course, as you mentioned, Joe was involved in a little bit of a calamity.
This is right on board with Mick. The only times I've seen him fighting this hard is when he thinks that it's going to be tough to hold back Rafael at the end, or if he thinks it's going to be tough to pass at the end. Usually Mick is smart enough to know that he can kind of take his time. So I think something's in his head that says my setup's not going to be good later on in this run.
Well, we did step into our broadcast booth about half an hour ago for a mic check, and he did say he thought this was going to be a very competitive race and very tight up front. That being said, he's really only got one competitor, but it's really a fierce competitor right now, as they're both dropping Ove Trantere in third place a little bit. Fastest lap goes to Rafael, and we've got a battle for fourth.
Yeah, Lino is trying to get by Olenek, but it doesn't work out. Now it's going to make him susceptible. Oh, but Schumacher, that's the blue car that you see behind him, is going to have to drop back. He just didn't quite get the run. The curbs here, even though they're pretty flat, can be kind of slippery on these cars.
Rafael Dorado, our race leader, ran wide exiting turn 3, and Mick Claridge was now all over the back of him once again. Joe, can you get a slowdown penalty for going wide there? You might want to answer that in a couple of moments because Mick Claridge might be going for the lead here.
Thankfully, the answer's no. There's no slowdown penalties on any of the running wide parts. It's only for cutting the course. Once again, defensive from Dorado. And he's almost got him up against the ropes. I think Mick's doing everything right here. He's trying to compromise his exit. That's the best way to pass in this car, is just to get the launch off. It's so hard to get the power down in this thing that right there, that's what you saw him do. Just get the better run. And if he gets the inside, he's going to have this one done.
Rafael completely overshot the apex. He was a mile off of it, and Mick Claridge was just going to blast on by. However, I don't think this race is over by a long shot. Rafael may be able to use a bit of a slipstream. He's going to stick his nose out to the inside there, and, just enough to make sure that Mick Claridge was looking in his mirrors. But Claridge is now your new leader at the end of lap 3 of 23. Let's see if he can start to pull away.
What this large field has caused a lot of calamity in the mid-pack. I've seen drivers up and down the order a ton. We haven't been able to cover a lot of the incidents and slip-ups just because they haven't been wrecks. It's just been drivers having offs, and I don't think anybody's been in the same position for 2 laps.
Yeah. Well, we're going to a shot of Eric Lukel here, but also in this shot, let's try and get a close-up on the 22 car of Terry Worth, running in 17th position, up 2 positions from where he started. But you'll notice he's missing the whole front end on his Lotus 49, but it's still going around.
Despite the long run up to the first corner, you really don't need too much in the way of aerodynamics in this car at this track, so you should be okay. Confession, I actually lost my nose pretty early on in my run and still held down 8th place pretty well.
There's been a change for 5th place. Andre Schumacher has moved on ahead of Mikko Lino. So there you see our top 10 is Mick Claridge leading Rafael Dorado, Ove Trantere, Rob Oljanek, Andre Schumacher, Mikko Lino. 7th place is Sebastian Tixier. Colin Bentley is in 8th place ahead of Alessandro Parigi. And then rounding out the top 10 right now is Gines Ruiz Nunez.
Ooh, as we watch these top 4, Trangrade looked like he bobbled a little bit in the middle of Curva de Sol, but then got a good exit. That's a very unusual line. You don't usually see someone square off that corner, but it seemed to work as it held back Olenek when I thought for sure he was going to get gobbled up.
While we're watching all this action on the track, I'm taking a look down in the pits at our casualty department. We've got Yuri Gizhin there, Antonio Reese, Chris Murakami, and John Vitrano have been early casualties of this one.
It's sad to see, but I mean, with so many cars, chances were higher that we'll lose some. Meanwhile, 9th place side by side here. That's Nunez to the right with Parigi to the driver's left, and they're almost going to make contact. You can't do that in these cars. Either you're going to touch tire to tire and they're going to hop, or they're just going to tangle up with each other and spin so easily. So you have to give a lot of respect in these machines if you're going to race wheel to wheel, and the drivers know it.
Well, as long as they keep it clean, they can afford to battle because they have a few seconds gap over the 11th place driver of Jeanne Lyman. But here they go, side by side, down the front straight.
You can see how hard it is to keep the throttle down through here. Now it gets flat out, and then it's a pretty long braking zone, but you can trail brake pretty easily with the way that the track dips down. It's almost banked the way it works. So you kind of have to use that to find speed through there.
Third position is starting to get a little bit close. Ove Trantre has dropped back a little bit. Rob Olyanek is right on the back of his car as they work their way up the hill. And Rob Olyanek is trying some different lines, trying to see if he can make something happen, getting very close to giving Ove one at the back.
Nick's going to look for it, but he's not quite brave enough. You can sometimes make a sneak attack down there into turn 8. The thing that most drivers would be worried about if they weren't used to racing Ove is he loves to slide that thing around and get sideways. But Olyanek's a veteran in this series, so he's very used to it. He'll know exactly how that car's going to handle, and that won't phase him.
Working their way towards the end of a lap. When they come across the start-finish line, they will have completed 6 of the 23 laps around here, so about a quarter distance, and that may have flown by for us, but I'm sure, Joe, that these drivers, their arms may already be getting a little bit worn with the amount of counter steering you have to do just to keep these cars on the road.
Yeah, and like I said, the infield is very, very busy, as Olyanek didn't quite get the run that he wanted up into the Senna S. See, look at this weird sort of squared off line for Trangrade. He did it again. It didn't quite work out as well. I've never ever seen someone do that. I'm kind of taking notes for the future if I get back to races track.
So this is a battle for third place. Once again, they're actually losing a bit of time as they do this to the top 2. It's a great battle from about 18th on back right now, but I mean, this is a fantastic one too, so I think we need to keep our eyes on this because all it will take is a small mistake from Trantre and Rob will be able to make his move.
There's another group too where they don't have anybody close behind threatening them, so they are free to fight. Question is, do they want to if they feel like they can hold on to the top group? They've been doing fairly well about not losing them that quickly. It's only 2.5 seconds. So, I mean, this isn't a draft track where you can kind of work together that way, but, I mean, if they fight, they're certainly not going to help each other.
I mean, surely at this point, though, Joe, Mick Claridge and Rafael Dorado out-qualified the rest of the field by over half a second. Trantre and Rob are already sitting 3 seconds back of the top 2. Surely they realise at this point they're probably going to be fighting for the third step on the podium unless there's any drama up front.
Yes, that's the most likely thing, but you can't give up hope on the win, especially this far up the front, as we got a little battle here between Parigi and Bentley. Looks like Parigi's going to come out on top into the Senna S. The thing is, remember, traffic is going to be huge today, even with as many cars as we have left. Still 33 still running out there. So if they run into traffic and it doesn't play well, that could cause them to fight again, and they'll catch right back up to those two. 3 seconds is not huge.
Yeah, we've got 32 cars still on the lead lap. The drivers in 30th, 31st and 32nd have dropped back a little bit, which is normally an indication that they had a spin or an off track at some point. But so the drivers 29th on up are where the leaders are really going to have to worry about getting held up, navigating their way through the traffic. Those drivers are about 45 seconds back of a race leader right now, so about half a lap, and we've done 7 laps of racing. So that tells me around lap 14 or 15, Joe, that's when the leaders are really going to start hitting the thick of it.
And worth noting that the leaders not pulling apart from one another, to me, kind of confirms what I was thinking, where Mick knew it would be a little bit tough to try and get by, or at least hold onto it. He hasn't dropped Rafael, so they're pretty even on pace. He had to basically take advantage of it as soon as he had the opportunity, which is why he was so aggressive in the early laps.
And right now, the top two are kind of just having a bit of a Saturday drive. But I'm sure, that's a spectator standpoint of what we're watching here, and not necessarily what it feels like in the cockpit. They're probably both pushing it to the limit, but I think the intensity will definitely pick up in the second half. We ride on board the driver in third place, the number 5 of Ove Chandre. For fans kind of new to iRacing here. Oh, here we go, side by side. Was that a mistake from Ove?
It was. Yeah, he went way wide into 8. And interesting, Olenek actually locked him up down to the inside. I'm not sure if he didn't expect it, or nope, maybe that's just the way the car is driving for him. A big puff of smoke coming through the duck spill as well. I saw a few cars doing that when I was racing last night. So I wonder if that's just a setup that a few of the drivers have been sharing that is lifting the front left wheel a little bit. Ooh, this is going to get spicy with the traffic. I think Rob's got a shot. He's right underneath him, but he's got nowhere to go. Ove gives him a little bit of space. Side by side, it's not a done deal, even though Rob's got the inside. He's going to have to be brave on the brakes, and Ove's going to give him room. Once again, another little lockup. Can he get the shot off the corner? Rob's going to get it, and that's going to give him the inside to curve it to Soul. And still he's not giving up. This is impressive defense here from Ove.
Side by side on down the straight. Rob does have about a car length advantage, but he's on the inside, so he's going to have to do a tighter line to get through that corner. Rob's looking a little bit safer right now. Ove still trying to find a way by, but I think Rob Olenek, at least for now, has third position. That being said, another mistake or a good turn or two from Ove, and I think this could switch back. Worth noting, 5th and 6th behind these two are also quite close, Andre Schumacher and Mikko Lino. So 1st and 2nd are in a race of their own, as are 3rd and 4th, and as are 5th and 6th.
Yeah, they've kind of paired up between the top 6. Everybody just kind of has a buddy to race with for now. What's interesting to note as we continue to watch Rob and Ove is you saw that traffic really tripped them up through here, because you don't realize how blind that corner is up to the Subidos dos Boxes, because it isn't really a corner in most cars. And in this car, it's not only that it's tough because you have to lift a little bit, you can't see where that exit is until you get around. So you don't know wow, holy cow, just a smoke screen from Rob Olenek up through turn 1 through the Senna S, really locking up that right front, but he still pulls it through. But yeah, you don't know where you stand on that corner until you get to the exit, and then you find out, uh-oh, I'm going to hit the grass, which is bad news at about 150 miles an hour in this car.
It's been a long time since I drove a Lotus 49 on iRacing, Joe, but I always liked a little bit of front brake dialed into this thing. It was like one thing that was predictable. I knew which tyres were going to lock if I went into the corner. If the rears lock, I'm in a bit of trouble. What a whale of a race from Andre Schumacher so far. And I need to be knocking on wood when I say that. But I mean, even if he did crash right now, his I rating would go up. He's a number 29 car, and I think we've only got about that many cars left.
Yeah, he's showing why he is leading that F2 championship right now as we're on board with Mikko. The number 7 has been trying to pressure him ever since getting overtaken. So credit to him for sticking with it and not letting him get away. Again, even though I said it's not really a draft track, they might be helped a little bit here. You might be finding some lap time. It's just not hugely significant. Well, let's see if this is going to be a good enough run. You can see the car squirming once again on that kink up to the front stretch, and that's going to deny him.
Yeah, talking about aerodynamics, I was watching Terry Worth go down the front straight earlier. He's that number 22 car we picked up earlier who's missing the front end of his machine. He was visually slower in the straight line than the rest of his competitors, Joe, so it's definitely affecting him. But like I say, if you are going to be struggling with top end speed, this isn't a bad track to have that issue.
Yeah, that's that spot, and maybe the run from Curva de Sol up the Reta Aposta can affect you, but that's shorter than this one too. So I wouldn't really be too concerned. Worth holding down that 17th spot, and actually on the attack a little bit. Chris Hangler is in front of him right now as we keep watching Schumacher fighting to hold on to a top 5 for his stats.
I think this is certainly going to keep him right up at the top of the F2 standings. Might think about trying to see if he can get up there in the F1 standings too.
Yeah, I was just trying to look at that myself to see exactly where he sits there. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing it between that and trying to keep an eye on the screen because there's so many cars still running out there. I believe we're about 30 cars on track. We've lost a few more. Andre Bruno has been sitting and taking repairs, and Haynes as well. Looks like he's gone.
Yeah, well, we're right now hitting that point of a race, Joe, where the leaders are going to start capturing some of the back markers. The good news, of course, for the leaders is that as they hit these drivers towards the very back of the field, those drivers won't put up too much of a fight because they're probably just out there for survival. You know, they might not necessarily be comfortable with the car. But as the laps wind on and they get into the thick of things, by the time they get up to position 20 or so, well, we've seen a lot of exciting racing going on around 20th place throughout the day, and those drivers might not be as willing to yield for the leaders.
Yeah, and you're right about the back markers probably being pretty kind to these drivers. It's funny, it's a retro series, and the attitudes are very retro in that sense. Today, gentleman driver tends to not be the kindest of terms, but gentleman driver is pretty accurate for a lot of these guys. It's so hard to drive the car that you kind of have to give a little bit more space and a little bit more respect because your own race is so hard to finish. You really don't want to compromise yours or the other drivers. So everybody is very heads up typically about seeing the leaders coming. Even if you're in a battle, everybody kind of makes a temporary truce to let them through.
And so this will probably be a little bit annoying for Mick Claridge here, but the fact that Rafael is kind of just able to hold onto the back of him here, Mick will have to watch not only out of his windshield, but out of his mirrors as well, whereas Rafael just needs to watch out of his windshield, wait for a mistake or, you know, a lapped car to bolt Mick a little bit, and then he can try and take advantage. He might have a bit of an easier job here.
We had a pass attempt from Miko. The Finn managed to get side by side into the Senna S, interestingly, but it didn't work out. You can see he's fallen back now, but he's starting to feel a little bit more confident. Here's the replay on it. He just got a good run, and then watch the braking. Long way around. He timed this perfectly, but then couldn't quite seal the deal.
All of our top 10 runners, by the way, started inside the top 10. They've the only one in the same position as where he started, though, is Andre Schumacher. He started 5th and is in 5th. Jean Lehman has gone from 15th to 11th. Dave Cohen's had a great race, 23rd to 14th. But up front, things have been fairly calm. Again, I don't expect it to last, though, because we're into the final 10 laps. Lap traffic is coming up. The intensity is coming up. And as we mentioned right at the top of the show, Joe, it's not going to be over until the checkered flag flies. And we've got a battle here going on down the front straight now into the Senna S. Looking around the outside comes the 7 car of Miko. Once again, trying to make a move on Andre Schumacher, but not going to happen yet.
And that was a robust defense from Schumacher, braking very late to hold him back. I mean, Miko was almost a full car length and fully beyond him. And still, he managed to come back at him. So this is going to cause the number 7 to think a little bit. Well, if I can't get him, if I'm that far ahead, what have I got to do to complete this pass? I almost think he's going to have to get a little bit aggressive and chop him off. Turn early. Once you're in front of him, you have the track space. But the question is Schumacher going to expect that? He has to, or else he'll get into the back of him.
We come back up to our leaders here. I've got to ask, Joe, you have a bit more experience in this car than myself. Is this a car where you might actually want to be second on the final lap going down the final straight?
No, definitely not. It's just not enough of a draft. The only way that would work is you have to bank on the car ahead making a mistake through the Subidos dos boxes. And Mick didn't make one here. You can see easily ahead despite giving the toe to Dorado. So unless you got something crazy up your sleeve like weird gearing or something, you want to be the car ahead.
Speaking of a car ahead, that's John Olsen running in 28th position is the next lapped car that these two are going to catch. Fortunately for them, John is kind of on the race on his own right now. We ride on board John Olsen's gearbox, so I'll probably just pull to the side and let these two by.
Yeah, this is about where I would be, so I would already be getting laps here in the dying stages. I was racing with guys like Olsen when I was out in the car. Certainly not as close to vying for podiums as I used to be back in the day, and it was a smaller field. They've got multiple lapped cars. This is Robert Reynolds as well. Rob, he's called Back Row Bob sometimes. Lovingly, he accepts the nickname in this series. So he easily got out of the way. Olsen is going to stay off to the right. There you go. And that is a great example of what I was talking about. The drivers at the back know that these are the leaders. They're going to move out of the way at the soonest opportunity, essentially.
And the laps are going to start ticking down in a hurry now. 7 laps left to go, 1.5 minutes per lap. But now look at the much thicker traffic that they are catching up to. And Mick Claridge was just on the radio there. I don't know if he was sending over a message to those guys ahead, just letting them know that they were coming. Of course, on iRacing, all of the drivers have an F3 screen, which is kind of a gentleman's agreement that everyone has that up at the same time, anytime they're racing, to kind of know where the cars are in relation to them, so the lap cars will know that the leaders are catching up.
Ooh, we got an attack. There's Uves around the outside of Rabo. This is into the Ciudad del Lago, but he's not good enough on the brakes. I wonder if the traffic had a play in that, because they just got by Giesen, it looks like. And worth noting that between our leaders that, and I had a point and then I lost it. Pardon me, you'd mentioned something and now my brain. It was this traffic coming up. Mick Claridge getting on the radio like that, that is actually, when the drivers give that little blip, it's just sort of an unwritten thank you. If a driver laps you and you see the radio come up for a split second, that's saying thank you without having to get on the radio to say thank you.
Leaders coming around to complete lap number 17. 6 laps left to go. We've got a battle for first, a battle for third, a battle for fifth. Tixier is sitting there in 7th place. He's feeling pretty safe, but other than that, plenty of positions up for grabs in the closing 10 minutes of this one.
We're going to get by 2 of them quickly. Van Dorn is up next. Van Dorn's going to pull off to the left side. But is Dorado going to get him? Van Dorn's not making it easy for him. Oh, he locks him up. Great heads up from Rafael to see that. And he gives him space. He doesn't get hit, but his heart has got to be in his throat.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't anything intentional. That was just a mistake from Van Dorn. I saw him run wide at turn 1 a couple of laps ago, so probably just doesn't have a braking quite set up to his liking. But fortunately, no harm, no foul. And hopefully he'll learn from it. And Rafael is still in the race, but he has lost a little bit of time to Mick Claridge, but nothing he can't get back, I don't think.
The traffic giveth and the traffic taketh. So it could swing back in his favor, and Mick might catch somebody in the wrong way next time. Now, the bad news is it's pretty sparse up next, and they've only got 6 to go. So I think they might only get 1 or 2 more cars.
Well, I think that might be good news for Mick Claridge, considering he's holding about a second leader now. He might have seen all that going on behind him and realized that, now's time to take advantage of that situation. Hey, I've got a bit of a gap and, Rafael is a little bit out of rhythm. Let's put the pedal down and see if I can build this lead.
Taking a look at Miko in 6th place once again, because he's still awful close to Schumacher, and he's going to have another go at him. I'm noticing that the brakes are much better for the Finn than it is for the Diaz driver, which, again, I'm a bit confused because it should play in his favor to try and overtake, but it seems like he just can't get off the corner as well, except for now, because another mistake from Schumacher opens the door. He knows it. He's going to defend to the inside, down into the Cita del Lago, but still Miko can't quite make it work.
And you're seeing how this is a tricky circuit to make a pass on. There's very few short straights around here, as you mentioned, Joe. Now, of course, one nice thing about these cars is aerodynamics doesn't matter too much, so Miko should be able to follow Andre pretty closely through these corners.
He's staying right up with him. Credit to Andre. Despite small mistakes here or there, he's had a successful defense to hold on to this top 5. Not easy to do in these cars. It's easy to get a little bit rattled. You're focused on so many other things. You're focused on your race so much that if another driver tries to send one up the inside, that you almost instinctively have to give way. Dorado with the fastest lap of the race up at the front, interestingly. So he's turned it on to try and catch Mick.
Yeah, he needs to, or else Mick Claridge was going to run away and take this race victory. And here we go, once again, Miko and Schumacher close in the corner. But Schumacher still holding on for now.
After ticking down, I wonder if we'll see Leno get a little bit more aggressive here, especially knowing that he's got the advantage under braking. If he gets himself a good run, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him make a move that's a little bit more harsh on Schumacher. But really what he needs to do is get that inside. Sounds like Cohen, who was within the top 20, is losing positions because he was off track. He must have spun coming out of the junction. Here it is. Yep, right there. Oh, did he get the wall?
Yes, but not too hard. It was unfortunate because he had a good race, Joe. He started 23rd and he was up to 15th. I think that's dropped him back to 19th position. There you see him on the left side, the new timing and scoring down in 19th. You can also follow timing and scoring at GSRC.tv. We've got a few exciting battles brewing here in the closing laps, so you might want to head on over there.
Unfortunately, we got to dip away from that mid-pack fight. Oh, and Miko's looking very good coming up the hill. But he starts to lose out on the exit of the corner, so Schumacher, like he is still going to hold him at bay.
Battle for the lead. Douglas Cloud, the lap car, got in the way of Mick Claridge, really held him up, and Rafael Dorado got right back onto the back of Mick's car here. I'm sure Mick probably wasn't too pleased about all that, but they got on by and he's been able to hold the lead, but he's definitely lost that cushion that he had.
What did I tell you? Sometimes the traffic works in your favor and sometimes it works against. With a short lap like this and so many cars, you just kind of have to play patient a little bit. Now, he can't play patient too long. Like I said, 3 to go now. Now that he's up with him, are we going to see that number 3 really chuck it in?
Well, we have seen Rafael laying down some hot times recently as they get by another lap's car there in the final corner and goes very wide for them. So here they come to the line. It's going to click down to 2 laps left to go as they complete 21 of 23 laps. That means 2 more opportunities of every turn for Rafael to try and make a pass stick. Right now he's too far back, but maybe he can try and get a good exit out of a center S and see if he can do something.
And I have to keep our heads everywhere because as this has been happening, Rabo had to defend from Trangrade, who managed to get side by side on him. And this is coming towards the junction. as we continue to watch our leaders. Looking like he's not going to be able to have a go there. Let's head back to Ove because he is right up underneath Robbo.
These two are very close, and Rob is being defensive down the straight, and rightfully so, telling Ove he'll have to go around the outside. Of course, Ove might just use that as an invitation to attempt some kind of crossover for when they go back up the hill. That's not going to work, so Rob Olyanek holding on to the race lead for now. I can tell you Mick Claridge is still leading this race, but it's still close up there too.
Yeah, in fact, Rafael also had a little bit of a peak, but couldn't get side by side. He's now showing his nose, trying to get psychological with Mick Claridge and see if he can scare him off the line. But, I mean, good luck doing that to Mickey.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about a driver strong as Mick is, psychological warfare will only get you so far. But it's really all he can do. I haven't really seen any mistakes out of Mick that would invite Rafael to take the lead. Here we go. The final lap. Mick is going to go defensive into the first corner. So I guess to that extent it's worked. Rafael's let Mick be aware that he is there. I'm sure Mick already knew that. Right now, though, Mick doesn't seem to care because he's got a really nice run out of the center S and has built up a pretty handy gap here. There is a laps car, though, off in the distance.
Yeah, and I think that defensive move was just more of a safety measure from Mick because Rafael wasn't nearly close enough. He was just making sure that he didn't try something crazy. This is Schultz. Schultz going to, yeah, nicely done. Let them through, so that's not going to interrupt. And that's the last of the traffic they'll catch.
In Schultz running in 21st position, so we're going to have 20 cars finish on the lead lap, providing all of the cars on the lead lap right now make it around to the finish line. Granted, we have a few battles out there, so that might not necessarily be the case. But here we go then, into the final sector of the lap. There's really only 2 more corners, and I don't think either of them are going to be passing opportunities for Rafael. His best bet might be to try and get a good run coming out of a final turn here. As long as Mick Claridge keeps it grounded, he should cross the line in first position, and that looks like what he's going to do because he's got a nice gap over Rafael here. Coming out of a final bend, he can see the checkered flag, and Mick Claridge wins at Interlagos.
By a hair. He had to really work for that one. Robbo looks like he's going to be able to finish on the podium just ahead of Trangarade. Great defense from him. Great battle. And then, oh, we missed. When did Miko get by Schumacher?
Yeah, you think he did it on the previous lap. He started the final lap ahead of Schumacher, so there has been a late change there. Miko is going to get 5th place. Andre Schumacher gets a very solid 6th place, though, for the F2 driver. Sebastian quiet racing 7th ahead of Alessandro Parigi. This has actually been a pretty good battle for 9th in the closing stages here, and it's going to be Nunez winning it in 9th place ahead of Colin Bentley, rounding out our top 10. A couple more battles coming to the line, Joe.
Yeah, remember Terry Worth with his damage? Well, he's still working on Hangler and has been trying to get by. We're going to see Lehman manage to take that position over Foster. Hangler, though, is really having to scrap here. Looks like he might be clear, as Worth, we know, is a little bit slow down the straight, and indeed, nicely done by the 32. 15th position. That'll be a good iRating game for him.
I don't think it'll be as impressive as Andre Schumacher's, but yeah, still a good day at the office right there. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here on GSRC and the iRacing Esports Network, but we will be back with driver interviews and a full race rundown, so don't go away. Hello and welcome back to Interlagos, where we just witnessed 23 laps of racing action here. And at the end of the day, your race winner for the second time in 3 rounds this season was Mick Claridge. And for the third time in 3 races this season, the driver in second place was Rafael Dorado. Rob Olyanek finishes in third position, almost 15 seconds back. Such was the pace of the top 2. Ove Trangerate finishes in fourth. Those two have another 15-second gap over Mikko Lino and Andre Schumacher, who were battling for 5th and 6th positions. Sebastian Tixier had a quiet race to 7th place, even though Alessandro Parigi did run him down towards the end. Gines Ruiz Nunez and Colin Bentley round out the top 10.
Danny Lehman was 11th with Paul Foster in P12 today. Eric Lukol didn't get to cover much, but a nice run to 13th. Togo Hisada finished in 14th, up from 21st, and a similar run for Hangler from 22nd to 15th. Worth, despite his damage, still moved forward from 19th to 16th, and Dave Cohen finished 17th today behind them. Emmanuel Pereira had a bit of a tough day, finishing 18th. Alessio Passini in 19th. The last car in the lead lap was Lau Stolzen in 20th.
21st position is Osmar Schultz ahead of Bruno Giacovazzo. Anthony Obrota was in 23rd place ahead of Douglas Cloud, and Jean Van Dorn in 25th place ahead of Eugenio Massa. John Olsen finishes 27th and Douglas Nelson was 28th. Then we come to Back Row Bob. Robert Reynolds finishing 29th, and one behind him here unfortunately did not make it to the end of the race. That includes Andrew Eng, Jean Vetrano, Yuri Gilson, Simon Haynes, Andres Bruno, Chris Murakami, and Antonio Reese. Well, let me get my buttons working here. Here we go. We've caught up with our race winner, Mick Claridge. Mick, congrats on the victory here today. You've shown up twice this season and you've won them both, but it was a close one.
Yeah, hi guys. Hi Samuel. Yeah, that was a tough one. I knew it was going to be tough. I said to you before the race, didn't I? I knew it was going to be like that. Both me and Rafael have put so many laps in this week, you wouldn't believe. I think I'm up to 400. He's around the same. So it was going to be down to stuff like back markers and stuff like that, because none of us were really making terrible mistakes. But yeah, I went low on the pressures, on the tyre pressures, which is boring for everyone to hear because they don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, just decided to go down low because we've never had an overcast session yet. So I've just thought, okay, I'll try it and see what happens. And I think that's what got me the win, really. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I'm still just thinking about passing that back marker.
Yeah, so we made a mention of it. We caught the end of it on the broadcast, but it looked like the back marker had some kind of issue in the center S, had rejoined the circuit and kind of squeezed you towards the outside of the circuit there, costing you a bit of time. The nice thing, though, was you'd built up about a second over Rafael, so you were still kind of able to hold on to the lead.
Yeah, I don't recognise the guy's name, so it might be his first race, but fair play, you know, that's fine, you know. But I just knew I couldn't stay behind him on the fast left-hander. I had to go around the outside of him because Rafael would have gone around the outside of me if I hadn't have done it. So I had to go round there, and maybe sort of got a bit caught in the headlights, you know, when I was around the outside of him there. So fair play to him. He's held his line. That's all right. I was on the grass trying to go around him. But yeah, it was great fun. Great to funny to have a free wide anyway down that back straight. That doesn't normally happen there.
Now, the race-winning pass, of course, happened early on in the race. It looked like Rafael missed the apex at the final corner. How tricky was this car circuit combination? And how tricky was that final turn, I suppose?
Yeah, that's really tricky because you've got to get it right. Otherwise, you're just a sitting duck down a straight, you know. So I know Rafa, he won't mind me saying this. I know he said he gets a bit nervous at the start of races. I do as well, but so I'm normally the same as that when I'm in front. I might make a few mess ups here and there, but yeah, that was the worst place to have a mess up, especially with someone right behind you close like that, because then you just can't do anything about it. But yeah, it really is tough. So tough to get the power down, and up the hill around that kink, the left hand kink. That's really tough as well. You just got to be so careful on the gas. You don't just put your foot down in this car, even in this weather. It's just insane.
Well, you did 400 laps practicing for this race. How many you got to do for VIR?
Do you know what? Probably the same. I was going to say not as many, but it'll probably be the same.
Yeah, it's a longer track, so a few more hours as well. Well, congrats on your second win of the season so far, Mick, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future, I'm sure.
Cheers. Let me just say thank you to one guy, Nicola Kochi. If it hadn't been for him this week, I wouldn't even be here. He sent me over a Rift. My Rift broke last week, so he sent me over one, and I just can't thank the guy enough. Really, just such a favour he done to me. So I'm gonna see him one day, and I'm gonna buy him a couple of beers.
All right, well, great to hear that. Always great camaraderie out there between fellow iRacers. And Joe, you have called up with our second place finisher.
Yep, Rafael Dorado, I think, has got a bit of a glass half full, glass half empty situation. You've got the consistency, but they're all second places. Which is it, half full or half empty?
I think it's definitely half full. I'm very happy with the race I had today, even though I didn't win again. But Mick was really fast this week. I was watching his times on practice, and I don't know what he had for lunch yesterday, or if he switched his cough brandy, or if he switched his cough brand, but he found 4/10 yesterday, and I was like, wow. So just to be able to keep up with him and make a few moves and try a few times, and even to get the pole, I mean, that's a good result for me. I'll take it, and I am at least consistent in the championship. I have 3 second places now. I think I should be in the lead still. So I'll try harder next week to get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that you're happy about that, especially in the talent of this field. Knowing he had that pace, were you expecting him to be that aggressive at the start to try and take the lead away from you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would have done the same. I managed to hold him off, I think, in the first lap, which was good. But then I made a silly mistake on the last corner, which is called Junção, going into the straight. And that's a really tough part of the track to make a mistake, because then you are sitting duck for the whole straight. I expected to maybe make a few more moves during the race for P1, but he didn't make any mistakes. And when our pace is so similar, if the driver in front doesn't make mistakes, it's really difficult to overtake. So I just want to say big congratulations to Mick. Well-deserved win for him today. And even so, I'm still very happy for the great battle we had today.
So with VIR up next, is that going to give you the opportunity to break the duck and finally get a win over Mick, or how you feeling heading over to Virginia?
I will try my hardest for sure to get the win, but it's a track that I'd never driven before, and I heard its fame. I mean, it's a very difficult track to learn. It's a very long track, many corners, many tricky corners in this car, a very big straight. So it's going to be a challenge learning a new track from scratch and still trying to keep up with the talent that exists in this series.
It certainly sounds like it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle, but best of luck. You seem to have the speed, and congratulations on another podium.
Thank you very much.
Rafael Dorado, Sam, second place again.
Yeah, it seems he's in good spirits about it, though. I think he's definitely going to be leading the championship heading into next week's race at VIR. Well, I always love it, Joe, when, we see these Lotus 49 cars at Interlagos, and you think, wow, this is a tricky car track combo. It can't get much more difficult than this. And then, we're going to VIR next week.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've always disliked VIR, at least as a driver. Commentating, it's always fun to watch races there, but That is, as many have heard me say on here, that is the one that got away. I could have had a victory there once, and unfortunately my own mistake threw it away. So bitter memories, but hopefully we'll have a lot of good memories made next week.
Well, I still have a fond place for it because it is a one racetrack that I have actually drove around in real life. In a Dodge Stratus, but still I've driven around it in real life, very slowly. Alright, well, we would like to thank all of the organisers and the competitors in the Grand Prix Legends series for coming out today and putting on a fantastic show. Additional thanks goes out to the companies that provide us with the software and hardware that we use during our broadcasts, and there you can see those listed on your screen. We would also like to thank June Lalonde for providing us her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Joe, Sean and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storemv.com. If you don't like supporting the channel, go to our merchandise store at gsrc.storemv.com. Anyway, you'll find some cool stuff there. The link is in the description below. Our next race will be the same time next Saturday from VIR. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so be sure to check those out, mark them down in your calendar, and don't miss another second of exciting racing action. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.